On behalf of Futury and all our mission initiators, I would like to welcome you to our kickoff presentation today of mission number 6, Energy Be Empowered. We are live streaming here today out of our Frankfurt studio, where we're sitting with the teams, which is in the in the WeWork, in the WeWork in Frankfurt, and we are more than happy that we have that great live stream set up here today. I'm also super excited and thankful that we have so many people joining online today for that next 2.5 hours with us. So, with mission number 6, which is Energy Empowered, we are moving towards our goal in creating a more sustainable future. And in German, I would say now we already have our Bergfest, which is halfway through. So you can see we already have like 6 missions, including this one, and we have 6 more to come, and afterwards even more. So we're very happy and thankful that we already managed to have that wonderful sessions with amazing corporate partners. And also on that note, I would like to say thank you already and also like welcome our corporate partners who are joining this mission. So we have our premium partners, that is Uniper and Techem. Then we have more partners who already sometimes joined or partially joined, like Schaeffler, Siemens, Visag, we have Kraftwerk, Vonovia, Ecolog, and Osborne and Clark. So let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Vanessa Kempf, and as the overall program director of the mission, I will guide you through the day. Okay, so what's on the agenda for today? So we have quite some topics for the next 2.5 hours. So after a short welcome, we would like to have a few discussion and keynotes on the role of innovation in achieving the climate targets for the future. And for this, we could have, or we brought together like 3 amazing speakers and keynotes. So number 1, we have Dr. Falko Ueckerdt from the Potsdam Institute of Climate Change. Then afterwards, we have 2 of our key premium partners, Dr. Holger Kreetz from Uniper, and last we have Matthias Hartmann from Techem, and they will talk about what innovation means in achieving our climate changes. We'll do a short break around 10, and then finally we have our teams pitching. They're already quite excited sitting in their rooms and waiting to kick off. We'll do a short outro at the end, next steps, and we're ending our live stream then at 11:30. So a few words on Futury and our mission, because we also have a mission, and our mission is to inspire, match, enable corporates and talents to innovate together. And we have an amazing network of corporate partners that have worked already with us. You can see some of the logos at the side. And of course, to match, you also need the other side, which are universities that we are in contact with and where we already recruit all the talents. So we have more than 200 leading universities working with us, and we're quite proud to bring these 2 sides together. Yes, and how do we do? And I would like to put a short focus on our core product, which is our ideation software. And in that ideation software, what we do is we kind of post challenges or like ideation challenges from corporate partners. So we have then teams, individuals having the opportunities to bring up their ideas. Then we also have the opportunity in that platform to bring together or build together teams of people who brought in ideas. The teams can also collaborate. They can also collaborate with our corporate partners. And lastly, there's an amazing interaction already before we start the mission. And so that platform or that software really helps us in achieving our goal and innovating together. Talking about talents and talking about the 6th mission, which is, as I said, halfway through, we are super proud to mention that we had more than 4,000 talents who applied for our programs, which is huge. And you see the map in the back. These talents, they come out of more than 100 countries. This is amazing. I think the world, I don't know how many countries we have, 150 or so. So like 2/3 is applying for our program. And we have an acceptance rate of 3%. And our talents come from different disciplines, be it business, engineering, technology, and so on. So I think we are building an amazing mix here together, and we come from all over the world, which makes that program unique. And talking about success stories of our talents, so now we can already not only launch, but share some of our success stories. Some of the logos you might have seen. Reevolta, Optimo, all these teams are coming out from our last missions. Some of them founded their company already. Some others joined accelerator programs afterwards. We have a few of them being employed by corporate partners. We have additional projects coming up. So there's quite a big range of what our talents did afterwards. And we're extremely proud. We're still in contact with them, and you might also see what they do in social media. But talking about of our current mission and the mission Energy Be Empowered, we again have like amazing talents. Some of you have seen them already, but you will meet them in a second. So 5 teams going to pitch today. We have team Endeema, we have team Raenergy, we have team FlexBlocks, we have team NFT, and team Power Routes. So how does the roadmap look like, and what are the key milestones? As you know or might know, the teams just started with their onboarding week 1.5 weeks ago, and today is already like the kickoff. During that program, we have then a few content sessions, and they get together, user testing, and so on. But the next big milestone will be then our interim pitch, 21st of July, followed by then the final pitch end of August. So you can tell already that this time the program will again fly like super quickly. So we'll keep track that we have amazing results at the end, and we hope that we can see you or you potentially might be joining in one of our next milestones events. Lastly, before we go into the keynotes, I would like just to share one slide. Most of the time, pictures say more than words. So a few impressions of our last 1.5 weeks. As you can see, it was quite colorful. There were lots of sessions. Team Day already went into their offices. They started ideating. We had a few sessions. And I can tell you the energy is great. The mission is Energy Be Empowered. And I can tell you our teams are hugely empowered. And it's quite exciting already to see in 1.5 weeks how well they all came together and how that all works out. So be excited for the next 2.5 hours. And now I would like to hand over, or now we're looking into our keynote. And I would like to hand over now to Falko Ueckerdt from the Potsdam Institute of Climate Change. Okay. Okay, so I've just learned we're handing over to Holger. I think it's Holger Hoff then? No, Dr. Holger Kreetz. Okay. Then I think I have like a, there's like an, okay. So we're handing over to Dr. Holger Kreetz. I just learned to apologize for these changes. So it's a pleasure to have Dr. Holger Kreetz with us. So apologize, we're moving back. So apologize. So now we have Falko in the line. I think there was some delays in the switch. So again, then I'm handing over now to Falko. It's great to have you here. And I'm looking forward for the presentation and the keynote that Falko from the Potsdam Institute of Climate Change is going to share with us. So over to you.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. My name is Falko Ueckerdt. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much to the teams. I wish you all the best for this mission. And thank you also very much to the corporates for supporting this, and thanks for having me. So I'm giving now a keynote speech. I can still hear you in the background. Okay, very good. I'm giving now my view on the role of energy, technology, innovation in achieving our climate targets. And I hope that this also shows you how important your work and your pitch is today. Before I go into this, I take one step back and show you how big the challenge of climate change actually is. This is a map where you can see all the countries of the world, and they are sorted according to their GDP per capita and according to their CO2 emissions. And what you can see that the two are coupled. They're closely interlinked, and that is 2017 data. So we're in the middle of an energy transition, and still you can see that welfare and growth seems to be very closely linked to CO2 emissions. So with the next phase of our energy transition, we need to decouple GDP from CO2. And that, and the core point of my talk is that this requires a broad range of energy innovations. The good news is that about 70% of today's CO2 emissions are already covered by net zero targets. So many countries have implemented into national targets what they agreed to 5 years ago at the Paris Agreement, where we all agreed to limit global warming to below 2 degrees or even 1.5 degrees. And for the EU, this net zero target is in 2050. And let's have a look on how ambitious this is. When we look at in the past, in the last 2 decades, the CO2 emissions decreased by a little more than 20%. And for the next 3 decades, the remaining 80% have to be achieved. So that means a tremendous acceleration of emissions reductions. And this also means that the emission reductions have to go far deeper into all our activities. So compared to the past, the next phase of the energy transition is, the past was a walk in a park compared to the next phase. Let's dig a little deeper. So the main innovations so far happened in the power sector. Here, renewable electricity replaced fossils, and that brought the main contribution of emissions reduction. The next phase needs to tackle burning natural gas in industry, burning natural gas in buildings, and burning oil in the transport sectors. And you can see that for those sectors, the acceleration of emissions reduction has to be even stronger. So what was the main innovation in the past? It was renewable electricity. Here, as an example, King Solar, as the IEA calls solar PV in the meanwhile. So we have seen unexpected continuous decrease in module prices over the last 40 years at a constant rate of 25% whenever doubling global capacity of solar PV. And this is expected to go on like this, and combined with a second energy revolution, and that is the cost decrease of batteries, of battery storage, of lithium-ion mostly, we can even create dispatchable, so controllable solar PV power in the future, even in Helsinki, that is cheaper than fossil electricity costs. And that's a real revolution. So climate change is teaching us that it's cheaper and more sustainable to use the solar energy directly in the present and not rely on fossil fuels, because fossil fuels is solar energy from the past, stored in biomass and then stored in fossil fuels. And moreover, electricity, renewable electricity, is not only becoming the cheapest new source of electricity, but the cheapest new source of energy. So cheaper than gasoline, and with CO2 pricing, also cheaper than natural gas. So the main strategy and the main core of innovation for the future is making use of cheap renewable electricity in the other sectors. And that process is called electrification. So electrification means using in different forms renewable electricity to replacing fossil fuels in these sectors. And there are different flavors of electrification, and I quickly go through them now. So the first innovation is, of course, moving towards a very clean power supply. Otherwise, electrification doesn't make sense. In Germany, we are at 50% renewable electricity. It can become 100% in many countries of the world. And this means, of course, tackling the variability of wind and solar. This requires a very integrated, intelligent power system where demand and supply are flexible and communicate with one another. And one key item here is that electrification can also help if designed flexibly. So the first flavor of electrification is direct electrification, where you move from combustion technologies to electric technologies. So for instance, heat pumps for heating buildings, or battery electric vehicles, also battery electric trucks, or electric furnaces. And that requires an end-use transformation away from these combustion technologies that is very faceted. It can be simple with the electric car, but it's much more difficult with glass production, for instance. Electrification has limits, so direct electrification has limits, for instance, aviation or primary steel. So here now the very hyped theme of hydrogen comes in. So green hydrogen is a second way of indirectly electrifying those end users. And then the third main innovation is, if you have green hydrogen and don't want to use it directly, you can combine it with CO2 and create something called e-fuels or power fuels. These are synthetic hydrocarbon fuels that have the advantage that they are almost identical to their fossil counterparts. So in aviation, we can stick with a conventional plane and just burn e-kerosene and be climate neutral. Only if, of course, the CO2 that is used for this is coming from the atmosphere. And then we create this huge carbon cycle for e-fuels in the future. And this could be based on one other major technology that is only in demonstration phase now, and that is direct air capture. And direct air capture we will need anyways for creating negative emissions. So removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it somewhere, for instance, in geological storage. And this is required because we cannot get rid of all emissions. For instance, cement production will, as long as we use cement, we will have CO2 emissions coming from the chemical processes. And now, when can we expect those innovations? I very roughly sketch that mostly renewable electricity and direct electrification, many technologies there are very mature and they need to be scaled, especially to achieving the 2030 targets. So we are looking into a decade of electrification now. At the same time, we need to develop all those other technologies. They're mostly in demonstration and small scale pilots, but they need policies, they need secure expectations of future markets to be further developed and scaled. And in general, the main point is there is no single individual silver bullet. Climate change really condemns us to a broad range of innovation.
I don't see the screen now. All right. Thank you very much, Falko, for your speech. And sorry that there was a little bit of confusion. So we'll just pause now here because we would like to listen to the other speakers first, and then we'll have a short panel discussion afterwards. So now finally, if I can click the slides. The slides. And also in my version, yes, perfect. Okay, so now I would like to come to Dr. Holger Kreetz from Uniper. He's the COO, and I'm very happy to have you here and also give your perspective on the climate change and innovation in climate change and how we can achieve that. So over to the real Holger now, and apologize for the. Okay. Yeah.
Morning. Good morning. Here speaks the real Holger. Thank you very much for the introduction, and also thanks a lot to Falko for his very inspiring speech that gives very well the context of what we're discussing today. And what I'm talking about here is how we are going on these new paths as Uniper, how we are entering into the sustainable future, and how we are in Uniper transforming our company. And actually most of my time and most of the time a lot of my teams are spending actually on transforming the company towards a more sustainable future. So let's go to the next page, and I'll very briefly explain to you what Uniper is all about. Uniper is a spin-off company from that was spun off E.ON 5 years ago. It's listed in the MDAX. We deal with conventional energy generation, so we have about 25 gigawatts of power generation across various technologies in Europe. But we have equally a very strong footprint in global commodities, so in global trading with offices around the globe. And we do sell and trade gas, coal, LNG in many locations of the world. We also have a very strong footprint in Russia, where we have a power generation business of 11 gigawatts there as well. Now, what we have done in Uniper last year, we've set ourselves a new strategy, and together with our majority shareholder Fortum, a Finnish company, and together with Fortum, we defined in the new strategy our targets for 2035. And we set ourselves a very ambitious target for 2035 to be carbon neutral in our entire European generation portfolio. So how does that look like? If we look at the next page, you will see then the transformational journey that we have been on already in the last couple of years. You will see that when Uniper was founded in 2016, we had 44 million tons of CO2 emissions. And you've seen from Falko the decrease of the various global societies of CO2 emissions. Also what has happened in Germany in the meantime. Actually, the path that we have been on as Uniper is even much steeper, and our ambition is even much stronger. We want to be carbon neutral in 2035, and we have outlined a very clear roadmap towards 2035 that will deliver the target. Now, having said that, obviously, this is something that a company like Uniper is not able to deliver alone. So therefore, if we go to the next page, you will see that we're very closely working with a lot of people and companies from different areas. We're working with customers from the chemical industry, from the steel industry, from many other industries across Europe and across the globe. We are also working with smaller companies, with startup companies, with innovation-driven companies that develop technology or that develop business models, because we believe that the speed that is needed and the agility that is needed and the capabilities that are needed to deliver the energy transformation, you really need to partner up, and we don't think we can do it all ourselves. So therefore, very strong partnerships have been developed. The other reason why we believe partnerships and customers are very important for us, obviously, is you have seen from Falko that the energy transformation has pretty much, or the decarbonization has pretty much started in the energy sector. The other sectors are following and will need to follow, especially in the coming decades. And therefore, we work with a lot of partners and customers from the other industries where learnings that we have made in the last 10, 20 years with coal exits and other things, you know, these other industries and these other partners can learn from us, and obviously we'll be able to learn a lot from them as well. So therefore, it's a good cooperation is very important. Now, equally important is the innovation as such. If we go to the next page, so what kind of topics that you work on, and we've seen in the last presentation, in the last picture, the map where a lot of the connections of the energy industry with renewables, with hydrogen, with carbon capture, with CCU, CCS, air capture, and so on was shown. In Uniper, we focus in the core of our business, and yeah, maybe we go back. Yeah, we focus in the core of our business on hydrogen, and we will focus also on renewables and energy efficiency. And there's a number of other areas where we also believe, you know, there's potential for future innovation. Power and new flexibility is one of them. You know, we're implementing battery systems in our various markets where we're operating. Smart and green heat, obviously the transformation in the electricity business, let's say, is also going to follow in the heat sector, where not so much decarbonization has happened so far. So that will happen from our perspective. Digitalization is clear. The whole value streams and the whole areas will be more or less completely digitalized going forward. So we're heavily working on that one. And then carbon recycling and biomass to access are obviously a very important area for us as well. With different focus in different countries, other markets like the UK and the Netherlands, the Nordic countries, they are very open to carbon capture and carbon capture utilization, carbon capture storage. In Germany, there's some discussions on the political side on this one. But to really go into a carbon neutral future, it will play a part from our perspective. So if we go then to the next page, you can see here on the next 2 pages a bit of a kind of a deep dive what we're doing in the various areas. You can see here a map of the UK and of Germany as 2 examples. Here you see our ambition to deliver 1 gigawatt of new renewable capacity. Renewable in this aspect means wind and solar assets by 2025. We do believe we have a bit of an advantage there because we have sufficient space around our infrastructure, around our assets where we are operating today. We are quite connected to the local communities when it comes to license to operate and getting permits, and also the grid connection obviously in those locations is pretty ideal. Obviously we are a small player in the renewables field yet, at least in the wind and solar renewables field. As a carbon-free player, we are quite big actually, because together with Fortum, we are the 3rd biggest carbon-free power producer in Europe, with a lot of hydro and nuclear assets in the Nordics, and also hydro assets in Germany. So that's the ambition on the renewable side. If we continue with the next page, you can see how a former innovation topic has dramatically changed and is about to dramatically change the industry and the industries, and pretty much how we will think about energy going forward. 10 years ago, Uniper was one of the first companies globally to invest into hydrogen innovation. We built the first megawatt scale electrolyzer globally in Falkenhagen. That's a place 100 kilometers off Berlin. And ever since, we have been looking at hydrogen, looking at sector coupling to connect the different industries with each other through hydrogen. And as Falko was saying, this is currently completely in the news. It's hyped. Everybody really very well understands that the very ambitious Paris set climate targets are only possible with a significant hydrogen contribution to that one. And on this page, you see the projects that we run Europe-wise with many different partners in blue hydrogen, in green hydrogen, and in other forms of hydrogen. So that is going to be a very important part going forward. We go to the next page, then you see a few faces here. This is Uniper, and Uniper for us, diversity and inclusion is a very important topic. We have 11,000 employees, and you know, we've been talking a lot about innovation and different assets and so on. Obviously, our people are our most important assets. So I'll stop here. I hopefully was able to explain in 10 minutes what Uniper is all about, and I hand back over. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Holger. This was very insightful and interesting. So great overview, and I think also for the teams, this was quite helpful to get a little bit more information on Uniper and what Uniper is looking after. Okay, fantastic. So we have a last keynote speaker, and I'm very happy that we also have Matthias Hartmann here with us. He's the CEO of Techem, a very interesting company, and I'm looking forward to hear what Matthias is pushing forward with his company and the role of innovation and how to achieve the climate changes.
I found the two presentations very inspiring. So as Falko was showing the overall challenge, Holger came in from the Uniper side to show us how this is being addressed from the energy dimension. What I'm going to add is to take a look from the services side of the house, how we bring this energy, let's say, to the consumers, to the tenants. So we are a digital service provider to the real estate industry. And we originally came very much from the residential side of the house, founded 70 years ago. In the meantime, we are serving more and more also the commercial side of the house, not the industrial side of the house, but wherever you have office buildings, wherever you have housing, this is where our home turf is. So my clients are the real estate industry. We used to be what I would call myself a pretty boring business. We are doing heat cost allocation. So wherever there is multi-tenant houses, the energy consumption has, according to local laws, depending on the country, has to be understood, has to be read, analyzed, and billed back individually to the tenants. Well, that was an analog business, nothing to do with digital. In the meantime, this business is completely digitizing. And as you will see, we are addressing with that service a huge challenge that our clients have. So if we go to the next slide, where we position ourselves, we believe is at the intersection of some really big megatrends for our clients, which again is the real estate industry. We are focusing on three key developments. On the one side, there is a growing need for housing. Urbanization is continuing, which by the way means for us, we have a growing business base. But the two trends that are mostly impacting our strategy and our product solution development is climate neutrality. How do we bring existing real estate into climate neutrality? It's a huge task, as Falko has outlined rightfully. And this will only work through a digital way of analyzing, measuring, optimizing, and achieving energy efficiency. So the two go hand in hand. We believe climate neutrality in the housing and in the real estate sector will never happen without digitization. Let's move to the next page so that you understand how we position ourselves. If we click it twice, you see the two main purpose and vision statements. Our vision is very simple. It is to make buildings green, smart, and healthy. Green with regard to climate neutrality, smart to enable digital business models for our clients and to be more efficient, provide better service, and provide a means to achieve climate neutrality. And the third one is really to be healthy, because we also offer water services against Legionella. We provide security services with smoke detection in the dwellings. So everything around a home or an office building is where our scope is. When I get up early in the morning, or everybody at Techem hopefully, and looks into the mirror in the bathroom, we ask ourselves, what drives you to work? Why should you be kind of working for us and being part of that journey? And our purpose statement is, together, we enable the digital energy transition in buildings. We as Techem, we cannot change the whole world, but what we take into account is the energy transition in buildings. Why is that so relevant? If you see and look, for example, into Germany's latest CO2 emission report, the country said proudly that they have achieved their annual target. But that is not true for one sector, which is, guess what, real estate. Real estate stands for 40% of CO2 emissions. And a typical German apartment, a typical dwelling with an average size of 70 square meters, has about 2.5 tons of CO2 emissions from heat and warm water alone. So we are facing a big challenge. Let's go to the next page. We do that today with a service in 20 countries. We are a European enterprise with some business in Brazil and in Dubai, but mainly mainland Europe. We have 750,000 customers. And for you, important to understand, my clients is the tenant, is the landlord and not the tenant. The landlord is my client for office buildings or for residential homes. But we serve around 12 million apartments or dwellings throughout Europe, 6 million about in Germany and about 6 million in other European countries. And as I said, the business has digitized. So today there is a little bit of analog reading still, but that is more because the clients want it. And we are currently serving 47 million digital devices, which is a radio quota of 80%. So suddenly I'm a data business, suddenly I'm a digital business, and the regulation of my clients demands them to invest in digital. So we are setting up a digital infrastructure in every dwelling, in every office building that we serve. But that is only one side. This is where we do the measurement and this is where we do the billing. But the other side is that today already we are serving around more than 5,500 buildings with central heating service, which means we partner with the industry to use the latest technology. We buy energy on behalf of our clients. The greener, the better. We are technology open entirely. And so today we are running and are having under contract more than 2,500 production systems. So take that into account. We get digital data from the dwelling and from the apartment. We get digital data from the central heating side. This provides us an energy footprint for the whole house and for the retail industry as such. Let's go on what we are doing as a service with this kind of data. We are driving what we call towards climate neutral smart districts. I already talked about the billing and the sub-metering services or the smart metering services we are doing. We are purchasing energy as green as we can, as renewable as we can from the markets, from the likes of Uniper and Holger and others. We are doing the contracting, the project development. We are looking for the best technology. We are cooperating and strategizing jointly with Bosch on the side of Wasserstoff. So that's going forward. But we are adding additional services. We just launched an e-mobility service. So wherever there is the first tenant who buys an electric car and wants to have the service, we are providing the whole infrastructure and the billing for that. And so we go on to build out our capabilities. We're adding solar to the roofs. So we are aiming to be a service provider to the industry across that. And we cannot do this alone. We are partnering. We are partnering with a PropTech side. We have about a dozen ongoing projects where we pick a client, where we pick a PropTech, and where we bring our own capabilities, and we go into areas to provide new ideas and new services. We do this in a more and more open environment. We are opening our data stack in order to be able to collaborate. That has not been the case in the industry for a long time. I think what real estate is missing is an open data framework on how to collaborate. This is evolving step by step. So making buildings green, smart, and healthy needs a lot of innovation. We can provide a solid base of clients. We can provide a digital infrastructure where we can hook in additional business models, additional innovation ideas. And that for us is why we are engaging here with the mission. We believe this will set a new trend to work together and to collaborate and to create new stuff that the planet needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthias, also for that insightful presentation and all the good information in it. So what I would like to do now, I would like to bring together all these perspectives from Techem, from Uniper, and also the PIC, because it gives different perspectives, either from the industry or also from the outside view. So let's bring all of you together. What I would like to do, I have one question for each of you. And then I have like a final set of small questions to round up that discussion. Okay, so can everybody hear and see me? That's good. Okay, fantastic. Good. Okay, so we start with Falko from the PIC. Falko, because also you take the external perspective, what would be interesting to understand is what has, I wouldn't say more impact, but when you compare now corporates or like big companies and corporates, also the individual, is there anything where you would say there is a bigger or more impact between corporates, or would you say it's a balance between what corporates can do and what individuals can do to achieve climate goals?
I would answer very similarly to what I said about innovation and technology. We really need it all. So we need both individuals and big corporates. And both have to find their role in the energy transition. So individuals, I think, as the smallest elements of the society, and what they can bring to the transition is that they can ask for political commitment. So be committed themselves, and then raise their political voices and vote for those parties that walk the talk, and create political commitment that really enables policies that brings us down to net zero. And for corporates, I would say they are responsible for redirecting their investments into net zero compatibility. So they need to embrace the future, change their business in many cases, and fundamentally change their business, and then finding their role in the transition. And this enables them then to also demand for a very strong policy framework to really secure expectations across the society, across business, and having a strong policy framework.
Okay. I was hoping that you're saying it's both sides. I totally agree. And I think we're in a good way to this. Okay, then now to Holger. So your business is mainly based on non-renewable resources like gas. So how do you cope with this, and what are you doing, or how do you set yourself up for the future to getting towards more renewables?
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa, for the question. I elaborated in my presentation a little bit already on creating our own renewable portfolio. So I think that is, and Falko calls it the redirection of capital and focus and culture, I guess I would add to that, to be honest. You know, that's one significant part on this one. The other one is obviously, you know, when we're creating the hydrogen business and when we're transforming the gas business to a green gas business, not only hydrogen, but also the biomethane plays a role, carbon capture utilization, carbon capture storage, all of those technologies play a role. And these kind of technologies only work together with the renewables. So to really create this industry between renewables and hydrogen and green gases to transform the industry is probably where we see the focus and where we see our contribution also.
Okay. All right, thank you. Then Matthias, you said it in your presentation at the end, you're doing quite some activities and things. And we also learned that you have the Techem X incubator, which is, I think, an amazing setup. And can you tell us a little bit more of maybe what the Techem X incubator is, and specifically, or maybe you can have one or two examples in specific, what kind of innovative ideas you are launching or getting out of that incubator?
Yeah, very happy to. In fact, you know, you have to put this into context. Techem is a 70-year-old company. We grew very traditionally, like so many other companies. We found a good market penetration with our services. Today, we are a market leader in our very little small industry of submetering. And if you grow organically over time, you know, you carry a lot of baggage. The way you develop projects is a waterfall-based model in the past. The systems that you have created are systems that have been seeing their infancy about 20 years ago. So the question is, how do you change culture? How do you bring an ideation, innovation culture in? And I think you cannot just turn the page and say, now we are all agile. Now we are all following just the latest OKR trends. I think you have to do it infiltrating the organization and showing first successes. Techem X for us is a business incubator where we created an environment close enough to the headquarters, close enough to the core business, but not as far away from Frankfurt like Berlin. We said we want to have it close. We want to be there in 10, 15 minutes, but we want to have a different setup to test out new ideas, to create new digital business models. And to bring some examples, one thing we started to do was, if you are what we call a private client, you're a homeowner of a multi-tenant house, let's say of 10 apartments, and you're doing all the administration yourself. If you want to do a contract with Techem a year ago, you had to fill out a form, 35 pages, giving all the technical information. Honestly, nobody could do that. So we said, let's rethink the attract and convert process. Now we have Techem Direct. Within 6 months, we brought this to the market. With 6 clicks, you get a formal offer and a contract from us to bring us on stage. So that's one example where Techem X, with their UX experience and their digital experience, helped us a great deal. The next thing we are currently expanding on is the EED. So the regulation of my client says that heat consumption, not only measured once a year, like in the last 50 years, but regularly. People and consumers need to know what their energy consumption is. And thus, you know, this creates a new, more and more real-time service capability. And this brings huge change. Exactly there, we are using Techem X. But we are also using it to think through and ideate around the new smoke detector. So we're developing a new version or a new generation of our smoke detectors that will not only detect smoke, but will have other IoT capabilities, other sensors that we connect throughout the home to increase safety. This is also a project where we utilize the skills of Techem X. So long answer, I'm sorry. But this is how we use the system.
Super nice. I think great examples. And I like that you were talking about also, and I think that's key, changing culture. And as you said, it's not just like from one to the other day, we'll do agile working and everything is nice. So maybe we have some point in time, or also like with your team to discuss, because I would be highly interested also to understand how you get the right talents and people who kind of change that culture and bring that all. I mean, you need to have capabilities. I mean, as you just said, in just at the end having 6 clicks to fill out a form. So really good examples. So thanks a lot. So I have one statement and one final question for you for each of one. First of all, everybody knows we have a goal in 2045 to achieve our climate goals. So first question I would have, or statement, do you think that's feasible? Can we make it? Question number 1. And question number 2 is, what sort of innovation do you think or changes will be the key levers to make that happen? So maybe we start back off with Falko from the PIC.
Yes, it is possible. Yes, but it's really a tremendous challenge, as you have seen. I sketched the graph for the EU, but it's very similar. So it really needs an acceleration of a factor of 5 and more, even for some subsectors, and that really goes deep into the processes now and into transformation. So so the main requisite is really a policy framework that is strong, and that is carbon pricing. But the carbon prices will not be high enough in the next decade to really foster innovation, but it will be the backbone that is like in which all technologies will eventually be embedded. But it needs to be complemented with innovation policies that foster the innovations. And here you can probably not go broadly, but you have to select. And that's a difficult process with a lot of debate right now. That brings me to the question of which technology is most important. I mean, I said we need them all. However, I now say all kinds of direct electrification because I see in the debate the risk of neglecting them. So everything that we have already that needs to be scaled urgently to achieve our very ambitious intermediate goals of 2030. And that means actually battery electric cars, battery electric trucks. Okay, they're in early stages, but also heat pumps in buildings. And then at the same time, develop all the hydrogen options. But hydrogen is not a silver bullet that solves it all. So really, it's the two.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So we're hearing policies, guidelines, process and technology. Okay, good. So what does Holger think about? Is it feasible? Is it possible? And what would you say are the key levers to get there?
First of all, Holger thinks that this is probably the biggest challenge of all, and it's not a new one. I started studying energy 30 years ago in Berlin, exactly 30 years ago. This year, 30 years ago in Berlin. And when I started studying, we discussed with my friends and colleagues, climate change, and we discussed the Club of Rome and how to tackle it and so on. I think what's changed now, and this is what I call the historic opportunity, is that it was not a few students 30 years ago in a bar, discussing climate change, but now the entire society is convinced and committed. The big industry players, the universities, the NGOs, everybody is behind this. Everybody is ready to tackle it, and that gives me hope. So that's, I think, number one. Number two, I think it's a gigantic task. Let's face it, and we have less than one generation to tackle it. So a lot of the topics we are discussing in the energy industry and our colleagues from the steel industry and the chemical industry, they have exactly the same challenges. When we make an investment, it's a 30, 40-year time span. We need to develop it, we need to build it, and then it operates for 20, 30, 40 years. Now, within one generation, we need to completely change it into a completely decarbonized society and industry. So that's a huge challenge, and we need to tackle it, and we need political support. Falko mentioned it. I think that's very important, subsidies and so on to build up hydrogen economy, the political and regulatory frameworks. That's all very important. It's an ambitious target. I can speak only for Uniper. Our 2035 target is an even more ambitious target, but I think with the roadmap we have in place, we will be able to manage it. But it's not an easy task, this one.
That's a very nice comparison, I have to say. As you said, you studied it, and there were a few people in the room talking about the topic, and now it feels like a big movement. And I think that lets every one of us being quite hopeful that this whole movement will also make sure that something's happening. Okay, so lastly, Matthias, your thoughts?
Well, I have to say I see opportunity, and I follow a lot of the movement idea that we just heard, but I see a lot of risk as well. And the risk I see is mostly coming from the regulatory area, from the political side, because we have a patchwork of regulation, specifically for the country of Germany. Other countries in Europe may be further ahead. The hope that I have, however, is coming from the other side. I can clearly see that the financial markets, with their ESG policies on environmental, social, and governance aspects, is driving a hard push on all the corporates to behave and to take this into account. I think this will be more driving industry to achieve the goals than the regulatory side from the political and governmental environment. But what we have in our hands is not only to look into the next 10 or 20 years. My call is that today, energy efficiency can be reached and improved a great deal. Let me just give you a few examples. 80% of the central heating systems today installed in multi-tenant houses in Germany, 80% of them are over-engineered and provide too much capacity. 80% also are producing too much energy by the day. We are wasting about 20-25% of energy every day in the install base because it's not centrally maintained and continually maintained. And thirdly, in 30% of the base, this central heating is pumping this on the same capacity summer and winter. This can be easily fixed with a maintenance system digitally maintained from abroad. We can do a lot already to save the first 20%. We do not need only to look into hydrogen futures. We can do this today and tomorrow. And this is where regulation is needed to drive the industry to do what's already possible today. So we have to be careful to stay pragmatic and do the first easy picks first, even if it is a lot of work to do so. But then we need more. I have to say, as a business leader, I have to say we will need a more integrated regulatory environment. And I do concur with Falko that the carbon price is not high enough to really force everybody to react. A last statement is on the consumer. When you ask consumers, they are all green. When you see what's happening, they are not. So what I need from these teams, from the innovators here in the room virtually, think through how we bring the consumer into the play through not only ideation, but through playing games, through the idea of how we can make them aware and make them play with the topic to achieve a change in behavior. It will not work without the consumer. So many great ideas, so many great gadgets are attractive for 5 to 8% of the consumers, and then they try it once and then they don't do it again. So we need new ways to engage the normal body on the street to engage in climate neutrality, and that has not been done. So ideation is needed here.
Thank you very much for that comment. One of our teams once said we have green brains, but we have kind of not green hands. And that's how it is. So absolutely. And I think one of the teams is also looking in terms of how you can incentivize, exactly as you said, a different behavior. So the teams are listening in, and I think they will incorporate everything. So let me say, first of all, thank you very much for spending the time. I know you are quite busy and you have a tight schedule. So for me, that's always a big thank you and appreciation that you spend the time with us and sharing your experiences and getting more, for so to say, meat on the bone. And I do hope that maybe if not just now in 10 minutes, but then afterwards you have some time also to watch the kick-off pitches from the teams. This is a live stream, so you can watch them afterwards. And of course, we have your amazing project managers with us who will then go into the feedback discussion in detail tomorrow. So thank you very much also for all your insights. And I'm wishing you a great afternoon. And we are closing off now because I can see the teams already waiting outside. So we'll see you back at 10:10. So in about 7 minutes, everybody is back here on stage, and then finally the teams are kicking off. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone, after that short break. So now the real excitement comes up, and I can feel it already in the room because we have all the teams here with us pitching in a second. So a few words, like very briefly, on how the pitching is going to work. So we have 5 teams, as you know. Each team has 5 to 8 minutes max time to pitch and present their idea, or it's like one person presenting. And this will be followed by a 7-minute feedback round. We have assigned feedback givers from our premium partners, Uniper and Techem. And then we're following on with the next one. So get excited for our first team, which is Team Endeema. So I'm handing over to Joel.
Thank you very much, and good morning from Team Endeema. We provide smart incentives for energy demand management. I want you to think of a steel factory, one of many firms in the German Mittelstand, part of the SMEs that form the backbone of Germany's economy. But as you know, the production of steel is very energy intensive. It incurs substantial costs in terms of electricity. And unlike households, SMEs in Germany face fluctuating electricity prices, which take into account the amount of energy demand on the grid. So our steel factory would face 3 kinds of problems as an SME. The first would be that of energy surcharges, which is that companies, particularly energy intensive ones, have to pay additional costs when there is peak energy demand in the grid. And this, of course, also affects the electricity providers in the form of utilities. The second problem would be that of supply constraints, because even if our SME wanted to supply its own electricity in the form of, let's say, solar panels on the roof, renewable capacity tends to be intermittent, and sometimes the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing, so the SME is still going to have to rely, to some extent, on other sources. And then the final aspect is that of energy efficiency, which is that as an SME, one would tend to focus on one's main output. So in the case of our steel company, the production of steel, and thinking about every nitty-gritty aspect of how additional electricity can be saved is not going to be the marked focus of our SME at hand. So what do we do? Well, this is where our solution comes in. So Endeema focuses on 3 aspects. The first is to monitor and process peak energy demand times by using a combination of IoT devices, smart meters, and utility records. The second is to notify firms at the plant level and to offer incentives to reduce, shift, or optimize the energy demand of the plant. And then the final and crucial aspect, which brings it all together, is that we pay a cut of the utility company savings from the aggravated peak demand, from the peak shaving, to the SME and take a small commission. So what could the prototype look like? Besides a website and direct messaging, a prototype could be something like this. In the top, we have information about particular energy intensive devices, noting their electricity usage over time, as well as whether they're turned on and to what intensity. In the middle, we have the 3 options to take action. One is the possibilities of scheduling production at different hours of the day or different days of the week. The second is to focus on hardware or software improvements, where we're able to provide recommendations that are specific to the industry and to the plant. And then the last one is in terms of overall efficiency, of improvements that can be taken by taking into account the other stakeholders of the firm, for instance, upstream and downstream possibilities, as well as buildings, transportations, and others. And then here at the bottom, we would have the metrics on the energy expenditures and the energy usage over time at the plant level. So the business model brings together 3 particular stakeholders. The first at the top here would be the SME, which would receive incentives from the utilities provider here at the bottom to reduce usage at peak times. Then the utilities provider would provide a commission to Endeema as the software as a service B2B provider to facilitate the peak shaving. And then here on the side, we have the link between the plant and Endeema, whereby we optimize the kind of notifications, the frequency, the targeting, the messaging, and also receive the registrations to help the plants, as well as the grid as a whole, become more energy efficient. So the sustainability and the vision brings together three components. The first is that we increase the capacity to meet energy demand in the grid through renewables and the overall sustainable transition by helping to have the supply and the demand side communicate through incentives. The second is that we provide SMEs, particularly those that are not focused so much on the energy efficiency measures, to have a better understanding as well as better control over their energy consumption and their energy efficiency. And the third aspect is that we contribute to the overall momentum towards greater energy efficiency, greater ability to reduce our carbon footprints, both as SMEs and as people, and overall to increase the efficiency and the output for given amounts of energy that we are using. In terms of competitors and market opportunities, one notable competitor would be OhmConnect, which is based in California. It's profitable. It's been based and operating since 2013 in the United States. And they serve as a virtual power plant that provides monetary incentives to households to reduce their energy consumption during peak hours. In Europe, we aren't seeing the same kind of competition at present. However, there's key regulatory momentum in the form of three areas. The first is that in Germany, there's the rollout of smart meters that is happening across the country, including over next year. And this provides a lot of additional opportunities to provide more regular billing, more information, as well as greater availability of data on how devices are working, how they're communicating, and how we could help them. The second aspect is the broader European-wide momentum towards carbon neutrality in accordance with the Paris Agreement. And then finally, we have the context of electricity prices being relatively expensive in Germany, which creates further incentives for German SMEs to increase their competitiveness by looking at additional cost-saving measures. So finally, let me introduce the team. We have Florian, who is head of operations, Haris, who is head of product, Lucy, who is head of technology, and myself, responsible for research. Thank you very much, and we welcome any and all of your questions. And I'd like to pass on to Vanessa. Thank you very much.
Wow, I'm applauding here. It's always most tricky to be first, right? So you kind of done like super well, I think. Very clear, nice design, good presentation. So well done, team. So we would like to start off our feedback talk now. And we have two feedback givers from us. As I was mentioning, we have Techem and we have Uniper. And so we have Marina Andrich from Techem with us. She's a senior innovation manager. And we have Tobias Georgi. He's also an innovation manager at Uniper. So handing over to Marina. Let's see if she's online already, but I think she is. I can see Marina and I can see Tobias. So welcome. Good to have you here. So let's start. Marina, what do you think?
Presentation, and I'm excited to learn more and more about this idea. It's not only tackling the energy efficiency problem or the challenge we're facing, and which will be bigger and bigger, become bigger and bigger if we don't do take proper measures. But it's also what Matthias mentioned previously. How can we influence behavior? How can we motivate people to use energy differently and with more conscious, and to know when and what to do? So this is exciting. I'm very happy that you're taking this into account. And also, when you're talking about competitors, it would be interesting to know, I mean, that there's a competitor just proves that it's an interesting task to look into it, and there's a market, right? So that is good. It's good to have competition. That's pretty natural. What I would be interested in is to know which markets are they already serving? Are they going beyond the US already? Or how are their capabilities to see a threat that they would expand to the other countries? And maybe what's also the differentiation you could maybe see when comparing yourself to that. But so far from that, I'm really excited to learn more and look really forward to the next weeks working with you.
Thank you very much.
Any thoughts?
Yes, certainly. Yeah. Thank you so much for your feedback. In terms of the competition landscape, so at present, OhmConnect would probably be the most notable. They are currently focused on the US market and California in particular, and is related to the very particular context of electricity outages in California in particular times. However, one of the benefits of the German context in relative view is that electricity prices in Germany are already relatively high in Europe, but also in particular compared to the United States. So the possibility of being profitable in California, I think, is a very good suggestion that in Germany and Europe more broadly, where electricity prices are quite a bit larger, where there's also a possibility to provide these monetary incentives. Other than that, in terms of other markets, we're also currently looking into other possibilities. So as you know, Germany has a very distinct landscape in terms of the utility providers, and we're also looking at opportunities, for instance, in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, and in the Middle East to potentially see whether there would be other markets that would provide better product to market fit.
Great, thank you.
Great, yeah. So amazing setup. We're here tomorrow anyhow for detailed feedback. So really looking forward to kick that off. Super well done. Okay, so Tobias, we have you there as well.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Joel, dear Endeema team. Joel, it was amazing. So you're very focused. You was very focused in your presentation. Excellent structure. So I was pretty happy to have experienced this presentation so far. So I know that you in the team, you're just working within the last couple of days, and what you got so far, I'm pretty excited about that. And it's a huge topic. This morning in the keynotes, we have heard a lot of the decarbonization targets, and you pick the digitalization and decentralization things, and to make improvements in energy efficiency is the easiest way for decarbonization, at least for the next couple of years. So what I'm interested for the next couple of weeks for your team to further explore, because there are already a decent number of hardware and software solutions, peak shaving solutions, demand side management, demand response management. So what kind of scalable niche is there? You mentioned the SME sector. How to define SME? Because it's could be very differentiated sectors. And in what kind of countries? Because each country has very differentiated and special regulatory framework. So I advise you to dive deeper into and to start with one country, one region. And also very important about the willingness to participate. So normally the companies are focused on their wholly production processes, and how you want to incentivize, and how do you want to make a scalable product out of this. That's I'm very curious to listen more about that, because there's the big challenge, and but also opportunities to aggregate all the small possible pieces who could be part of the flexibility of the energy system?
Yes, thank you very much. I believe that this ties in well to our next steps, which is researching the product market fit, interviewing customers, and there's many different opportunities and also findings we have already. So in terms of the existing evidence, trials have been run of the concept in, for instance, Colombia, in Japan, as well as in Spain. And our next steps would be to talk to various different partners as well as potential customers to see to what extent there are incentives that work and interest, as well as to focus on the specific targeting. So you mentioned the niche market. Two aspects are going to be crucial. The first is that the electricity and energy expenditure in general is a relatively significant proportion of the company's costs that they would like to pay attention to such efficiency measures. But then there's also the crucial aspect, which is also distinct in our approach, which is the possibility, for instance, to shift their production to different times of the day or of the week to match the monetary incentives. So we can think of many different operations that are not able to be delayed or be shifted in time. So we'll be looking into that by interviewing customers and by talking to partners directly.
Fantastic. Wow. I mean, what a, in German, I would say Aufschlag. I'm highly impressed. So thank you very much, Joel and team. So congrats. We'll talk later. We'll see you around.
Yes.
And then enjoy now. You're done.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. Thank you also, Marina and Tobias. We'll see you back in one of the next pitches. Okay. So we have our next team on spot, which is Team Raenergy. And Team Raenergy will tell us a little bit about how we can even make more use, or everyone can make more use of the sun. That's how I see it. So very happy to hand over to Mostafa from Team Raenergy. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. I believe every one of us is very thankful for the presence of the sun in our everyday lives. It is 2021 and renewable energy is by far this decade's main highlight, and it is becoming more and more relevant by the day. But are we making the most out of nature's most valuable blessing? This is Mustafa. I'm Mustafa and I'm representing Team Raenergy. The threat of global warming persists and it is constantly growing. But why aren't a lot of people taking collective action in order to tackle this issue? What is stopping them? Our consumption behaviors are exponentially growing, and this is due to the tremendous shift towards digitization of our day-to-day processes. But we are, for the most part, still consumers only. Unfortunately, under the existing energy market arrangements, it is very, very challenging for many property owners to become prosumers, produce their own energy, and make the shift towards renewable energy sources. For property owners, this is mainly because of the complex and tedious bureaucratic process. They're barricaded by the lack of initial capital needed for the installation costs, and they're not very much highly incentivized enough to take it upon themselves to initiate the change. On the other hand, the general population are being left out from participating in moving renewable energy production forward, simply because either they don't own a property or they don't own a suitable property. Because, for example, someone who lives in a apartment cannot install solar panels, for example. And that's where we come in. Raenergy is a peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform for the renewables market. It enables property owners to connect with people willing to make a low-risk and green, impactful investment with the aim of switching to renewable energy. It provides a rapid, simplified, and facilitated matchmaking process that is 100% automated and digitized, and this provides for property owners low electricity costs and safe returns and monetary gains for investors. As you can see here from our initial prototype, investors from all around the world can see the properties listed by their owners, see the current funding progress, as well as the duration of the investment and the anticipated returns. And eventually, they can choose to invest in one or more property. So why now? There is a growing demand among citizens to produce their own low-cost electricity. So we have to provide them the opportunity to be more independent and be prosumers and produce their own energy. And why crowd investing? In the last 5 years, crowd investing grew by 481% in Germany. That was 327 million euros in 2020. Interestingly, crowd investing in renewable energy projects grew by 44.8% in 2020. 2020 was the year of the pandemic. And this clearly highlights the fact that even in the times of crisis, people recognize renewable energy investments as a good and leveraged opportunity. Now, let's take a closer look at the renewable energy market. 89% of the solar PV rooftop potential in the German residential sector is still untapped. The solar PV installations in Germany that are between 10 and 15 kilowatt peak increased and grew by 248% last year. And there is a constant increase in demand for energy decentralization and reducing grid dependency. And also there is a lot of noticeable attempts to decarbonize economies as well as coupling interconnected sectors. So for example, the electric vehicle charging infrastructure can benefit from the surplus energy regenerated from residential houses. As you saw, the outlook for the German market seems very shiny. Luckily, the EU market is also exceptionally interconnected, and thanks to the new Green Deal, there is a lot of potential also for the EU market in terms of installing new solar panels in different countries. We aim also to be an EU-wide crowd investing platform, and the latest research shows that for 11 of the EU countries, there is an annual growth for solar panel installation projected for more than 20% and until 2024. And 3 of these countries are the top 3 countries growing are Spain, Netherlands, and France. So there is huge potential for solar panel installation and also crowd investing, as you can see. Now to the team. We are a versatile team with a diverse skill set, and we have a passion for making the shift to renewable energy sources possible, and we want to facilitate it and make it as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. We have Hazal, who is a marketing and entrepreneurship graduate and will be handling our project and business and communications. We have Jan, who is a business information systems graduate and will be handling our business analysis as well as research work. We have Omkar, who is a renewable energy engineer and will be handling the technical side of things as well as the business operations. And then there's me, a soon-to-be computer science graduate with a passion for user experience design and product development. Our goal is to mobilize green investments in order to realize renewable energy products, and we are very much looking forward to do this together. And thank you, and we are very much looking forward for your questions and to working with you in the coming months. Thank you.
Wow, bam, I would say the sun is coming up. I literally can feel it. Super well done. I mean, you see, this is already our second presentation. Super well done. Good stuff, good slides, good presentation. So now we can have some feedback givers with us. So we have a newcomer, so to say, with us. Let's see, so I'll move to the side where we can see her. Renate Krammer from Uniper. So she's the head of innovation there. Great to have you, Renate. And again, we have Marina from Techem. So these 2 ladies will now give some feedback or share their interests in your idea. So. Yes, good.
Hello.
Hi everyone, good to see you. So let's start off. Maybe as we have Renate new in the team, maybe first one, Renate, to share their thoughts.
Hello, everybody. Mustafa, thank you very much for the great presentation, and also congratulations to your teams that you made it to the last 5 teams in this being empowered Handelsblatt energy mission. So you did a great job. I think that prosumers will have an important role in the energy transition. So yes, I think there is a market out there. However, I would like to know, you will have with every platform and crowd funding is some kind of platform, you always have the chicken and egg problem. So what do you see more important? The ones who are building out, you know, the solar panels on the rooftops, or the investors?
Thank you very much for the question. So we see it as it is a good opportunity for both parties. So for the property owners, they, as mentioned in the problem slide, they are facing a lot of problems in terms of funding the solar panels on the roof. So it is also an important issue for them, and we are attempting to also solve the issue for them, as well as for the investors, because they would want to make a low-risk investment. So, and it's unlike stocks, for example. Stocks can fall down, but for solar panels, it's pretty much a very safe investment. So it's also an important problem for them to solve it for them, and creating a green investment opportunity that is also safe. I think this is also important for them, and obviously both parties.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Another question I have, what kind of return on investment are you seeking for the crowdfunding participants?
We are still researching this part exactly, because there are a lot of parameters that has to be considered. And what we're thinking is that the investor, or like the group of crowd investors that will be investing their money in a properties installation, they would get a return on percentage on what they invested in this roof. But again, the exact technicalities, we're still doing this research about this part, and we will be more prepared for that in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm. And I also think maybe this would also somehow connect with the first solution we saw, because somebody has to, you know, market the electricity that is produced as well. But thank you very much. Looking forward to the advancements you will make within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much for your feedback.
Great. So over to Marina.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mustafa, for this presentation. And I must say, what I instantly liked about Raenergy when I heard it the first time I read about it was, I think we have a lot of challenges here to face in the near future. It's not again in the future, but it's a near future. And I think the best way to do that is to give everybody the chance to participate within its means. So some might not have a house, so some people cannot build their own solar panels. But what we have seen recently in society is that there is money available, but people want the good reason, the good cause why they invest their money. So people start picking to be picky about, in a positive way, where is my money going to, and I want to invest it for a good cause. So I really like that idea for the society. It's really great, and it would be amazing to see that being rolled out on a big scale. What would be interesting for me, apart from Renate's question, she already took some really good questions, so thank you for that, Renate. What would be interesting to know is when financing is done, so it is achieved, how many weeks or months would pass between an owner to be noticed, like, okay, you got the funding, and now you can build the panel, and when would the payback start accordingly? So do you already have a number of weeks, days, months?
What we're planning, first of all, I would like to comment on the first part, which is 100% true, and because also there is a completely growing awareness, like a very big growing awareness among the younger generation, for like the sustainable lifestyle and everything. And these people usually do not own houses, but they still want to make a green investment. That's why we think it's very crucial to create this investment opportunity for them. Answering your question, we're still looking into how we can balance both sides. So we balance the property owners that are going to be listed on our platform and balancing the amounts of investors. We don't want more investors than properties, because then they won't find their money going anywhere. And at the same time, we don't want a lot of property owners without many investors, because in that case, they would wait a long time before they get their investment. So we're looking into a strategy, and this also will come into play with our marketing strategy that we will put into place, so that they all play balanced with each other and minimize waiting times for both parties as much as possible.
Great, thank you so much. Excited to see the next weeks.
Exactly, super exciting. Thank you for your great questions, also, and good insights, so the teams know already like what to focus on. And what I like, and I think in general on that program, is because you really bring not only the insights, but also give these like very concrete examples, like how does it really work then, right? What's the process? How do you do this? So it's not just like a high level technical thinking. It's really like going into the deep. So this is great. We're looking forward. So thank you very much, Team Raenergy. And Mostafa, also well done. So you can relax now. And we're coming to the third team. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, yes. All right. So you've seen two teams, which is Endeema and Raenergy, who kept their name, especially for our corporate partners who joined from the beginning. You might have the names, the original names, which we presented to you in mind. So Endeema and Raenergy, they kept their name. But we have two other teams who already changed their name. And so I just want to call out that you might recall the team Flex Blocks is now called Reevolta. And you might consider, what was Flex Blocks again? And now Reevolta. So that is our battery team. And I think we heard it in one of the presentations, I think from Matthias it was, also talking about, or like Falko, about batteries. So I think this is a very exciting topic. Also, everyone can relate to this, I think. And so I'm quite happy to hand over now to Jules from Team Reevolta.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Over to you.
Hello everyone, I'm very pleased and delighted to present you today our wonderful ID and team Reevolta. By the year 2040, there will be approximately 7.8 million tons of EV batteries that will reach the end of their first life. And this is dramatic, and we need to do something about it. The battery economy raises three major challenges. First, when the battery reaches the end of her first life, it still remains 80% power capacity in it. Meaning that in a battery pack, you have several modules, and each of those modules has still 80% of power capacity. This means that this power capacity could be used to fulfill less power demanding solutions and applications. But right now, the problem is that there is a huge lack of knowledge on how to repurpose batteries and implement those reused batteries in secondary applications. Secondly, there is a wide spectrum of EV manufacturers in the industry of battery. Therefore, they all have different procedures and techniques to build their batteries. And in the end, there is a huge lack of standardization. And this is a major issue too. And now the last issue, and maybe the most crucial one, is the energy transition we are facing. Indeed, the decarbonization of the economy and the energy transition we are facing requires more and more renewable energy systems to be implemented. And those renewable energy systems requires an increase in storage demand. Indeed, we'll need a huge amount of storage solution to store the upcoming energy produced by the renewable energy systems. And the European Union will aim to be an actor and major actor in this transition by willing to apply and establish a circular economy for the battery so that they are reused before recycled. We need to act now. This is urgent. Why is that? Because if you can see on this graph, by the year 2030, there will be more than 1 million batteries that reach the end of life. And if you remember at the beginning of the presentation, by the year 2040, there will be 7 times that number. And if you take a look at these curves, you can see that it grows exponentially. And from the year 2025, it will take off. So we need to be prepared for that. The major problem in the current economy, battery economy, is the gap that lies between the first end-of-life users, stakeholders, meaning the EV manufacturers and the EV repair workshops, and the second life stakeholders, the stationary storage application, the power backup, the transmission line supports, and many more. And this is where we come into the picture, because those stakeholders are not connected because of lack of knowledge on how to repurpose their batteries and adapt them to the secondary applications. Let me present you how. Let me now guide you through the battery second life journey. First, we need to source the battery. When the battery reaches the end of her first life, it either falls into the hand of the EV manufacturers or EV repair workshops. Those stakeholders don't have any clue on how to repurpose well their battery and make the most profit out of them. Therefore, currently they are recycling them or sending them to waste. This is where we come into the picture and we introduce our software tool to analyze and capture and process the data provided by the battery management systems of their batteries in order to establish the best repurposing applications possible. Once we've showed them this application, we offer them the opportunity to repurpose their batteries for them. Thanks to our logistic partners, we transport the batteries to our remanufacturing facility. In this facility, we will have first a testing phase where we will test and assess each of the battery current status. This will enable to sort them by category and different applications. We will then dismantle them, sort the modules, send the wasted modules to waste and recycling, and then reassemble them into customized and tailored solutions for repurposing. Once the battery is ready and set, we send it to the secondary life applications. Those can be stationary storage solutions, peak shaving solutions, transmission support, transmission line support, data center backup, and many more. Once the batteries has reached the end of its second life, so approximately 15 years, we'll then take care of closing the loop of the circular economy by sending the battery to recycle. But this project cannot be achieved without a dream team. And I am pleased today to introduce you to our members. First, we have Ludivine, which will be our project manager and guide us through this adventure. Then, let me introduce you to wonderful Raphael, the technical manager. After that, we have Tahir, which will be our product manager. Then, we have Isabella, which will be the head of sustainability in our startup company. And finally, myself, which will be the system engineer taking care of the logistics and way more. I am very delighted to hear from your feedbacks, and I will be pleased to answer any of the questions. Thank you for listening to me, and remember, use the resources to the fullest. And over to Vanessa.
Super! Woohoo! I like that a lot. Second life is always cool, right? In any case. So, and I think once you said something like, I think there was a quote when you said you only realize you have a second life when the first life is gone or so.
Yeah.
Something similar like this. So, I think this is a very nice and positive framing. And also I like the logo very much. I have to say Reevolta. So also, again, we have our feedback givers with us. So you know that faces now. We have Tobias from Uniper and again, Marina from Techem. So let's do the switch and see them and get the feedback. Woohoo! Good to have you back. So let's start with Toby now.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. I really love it. I like the way you went through this very complex topic, and I really love the value chain you created and you described. You call it the battery journey. And you can really good see in the battery journey the complexity of this topic. The topic itself is not new from a theoretical point of view. There are a couple of studies out there, and the ambition now is to create a business model of that. And you identified a couple of challenges from the end-to-end cycle, the battery sources. That is would be one tricky one, how to get the small batteries in a large scale in the future towards standardization. Do you get it from car owners, or you mentioned the car houses and the manufacturer, the repairing companies, but also think of other sources like public bus companies also, because battery electrification of public transport will be a thing in the next couple of days and weeks. Yeah, one other remark is the application. So you mentioned applications like peak shaving, stationary, these kind of things. So there is a huge range, and I would be interested what would be technical feasible in a good way, because these applications also has the demand for some security of supply and some quality. So because the battery already had its first life, so the quality after the first life is not in the second life is not the same as in the first life. So what could be then still feasible? I'm very interested in that. And the ambition for you would be to identify the most promising things, because I don't think you could cover the whole battery journey within the next three months. So you have to find out where to focus. But from my point of view and from Uniper point of view, it very well fits to our innovation search field. We have the 5 megawatt M5 battery in Aachen. In the western part of Germany, and we are looking forward to discuss with you the battery solutions, and I'm happy to hear more about that.
Thank you very much, Tobias, for your feedback. First, I would like to come back on your first recommendation, which were the end-of-life stakeholders and how we're going to approach them. I think there is many different ways to approach them, and there is a plurality of stakeholders, and we need first to focus on the which will be the first stakeholders that takes care of the battery, meaning when an end user takes his car to the EV workshop because his car doesn't reach the performances anymore, this is the first stakeholder that will have the hand on the battery, and we wish to start with them and try to establish maybe a network between them, and afterward expand it to EV manufacturers and bus company, like you said, and other kind of application. Second, there is also a lot of different kinds of application to apply battery repurposing, and we have already made a bit of research on this topic. And currently, the most profitable solutions would be stationary storage for residential and commercial load following, but also in node telecom backups to back up the power of telecommunication. So these are the most profitable, but also peak shaving can be a good solution, and we still need to deep in this subject to establish the different profits that can be made and which will be the best solutions. So yes, that would be the output of our software, hopefully.
Good. All right. Good insights. You have your homework to do already. Okay, over to Marina.
Yes, thank you very much. I must say, I like the rebranding, renaming. There's something of a revolution, and the voltage, very nice. Well done. And great presentation. You're tackling a problem that we all actually, to be honest, know it's coming. We have it in the back of our mind, but as it's inconvenient, and we prefer the first solution, which is EV cars, right? EV charging. We right now all focus on that first solution, but the second one problem is coming up, so it's good that you're tackling it. I agree with Tobias. It would be interesting to know more about the stakeholders and the journey, the battery journey. Very nice wording, also well done here, and interesting to see how you develop furthermore this idea, because it's definitely, there is a market and you will have supply. So 2 factors are guaranteed already, and it's a good prerequisite.
Yes, thank you very much. So we wanna thanks to your feedbacks, try to establish which on this battery journey is the most crucial point to focus on. I think it's the first issue is really to source the batteries, because there are widely scattered on the map, and we need to collect them wisely and efficiently. So I think that will be the first challenge to tackle, and after that we'll hopefully build up and expand towards the secondary steps and provide our own remanufacturing solutions and repurpose our own batteries, hopefully. But thank you very much for your feedbacks.
Yeah, great, thank you. Very exciting topic. So thank you, Team Reevolta. Revolution is coming up with Team Reevolta. I think that's great. Well done. So now you can relax. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
See you later. Okay. Good. So you heard 3 teams, so 2 more to come. And as I was mentioning, one of the team also changed their name. The NFT team is now called TradeSoul, which I think is an amazing name. So I guess everyone's quite excited to hear about what TradeSoul is all about. And I'm very happy to hand over now to Ryan from Team TradeSoul. Over to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'd like to introduce ourselves as TradeSoul, connecting renewable energy producers with small and mid-sized companies. We believe that decentralization is going to be one of the biggest themes in the 21st century. Institutions have long controlled society in good consequence ways and bad consequence ways. On one hand, they provide coordination of supply and demand. On the other hand, they can act as anti-competitive players in the infrastructure they've built themselves. Regardless of whether institutions can be reworked, decentralization and companies that provide decentralization to their customers are only getting more and more popular. We've seen trends in decentralization already in things like education. Millions of students are accessing lectures online from professors around the world. In media, Twitter has become a popular news source as an alternate to mainstream media. And most importantly, finance. Trading stocks, cryptocurrency, and other financial products has never been more accessible and easy and without the use of a broker. We believe that the institutional controlled financial markets will now be made available to the individual. Energy trading in particular is ripe for decentralization and reworking from its old traditional model. PPA stands for Power Purchase Arrangement, and it's an energy trading contract. Under a power purchasing arrangement, a renewable energy producer sells energy to a company for a specific price over a specific amount of time. These contracts have become more and more popular because for the renewable energy producer, it allows for a steady stream of revenue because they're selling energy at a fixed price. And for the company buying energy, it allows them to manage their cost because they're buying energy at a fixed price. The problem with these contracts is they face difficult and long negotiations with price brokering, and energy advisors and lawyers. This results in huge legal fees and transaction costs, which also creates a cost entry barrier of entry to smaller renewable energy producers and companies that want to enter the PPA market. Lastly, Germany has become a leader in the corporate PPA market with five-fold increase in contracts signed in 2020 compared to 2019. This is because Germany's industrial sector has a strong demand for renewable energy. However, under Germany's Renewable Energy Act, the 20-year renewable energy contracts are set to expire next year. They said if these contracts are not renewed efficiently, then potentially 4 gigawatts of energy could be dropped from the system. Our solution in business in a nutshell is a blockchain-based energy marketplace that helps small and mid-sized businesses gain access to PPAs, minimize transaction costs, and eliminate time spent on negotiations. The business model in our platform allows for small and mid-sized companies buying energy to gain direct access to local renewable energy producers, an online centralized platform. It reduces complexity and cost by transacting a standardized version of the PPA contract. And through an online bidding auction, hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal costs are saved, as well as months of time. For renewable energy producing companies, this allows more access to potential customers and lowers that entry cost to barrier to enter the PPA market. Again, by using a standardized version of the PPA contract, it reduces risks and allows them access to higher, more particular streams of revenues. Our marketplace charges 0.1% of each transaction. This is in comparison to traditional energy advisors that charge up to 8% per transaction. We're comparatively much lower. A quick insight into the customer journey of our solution. As an energy buying company, you can create a profile on the platform. Here you'll upload your historic energy consumption data and as well as evidence of creditworthiness. From there, you'll be able to look at and access different PPA contracts from renewable energy producers. You can look at the due diligence that we provide on each producer, as well as a brief description, an estimate of how much electricity each producer can produce, and you can make your bid. Like a traditional auction, the highest bidder wins, the electricity volume is transacted, and the PPA contract is automatically created. For the last step, the energy is already flowing, and we make sure that that contract is held. Our team, we have Francesco Saglia. He's the head of our technology development. He co-founded an online gaming platform called Stakes that allowed gamers to compete with each other and earn money. He also has experience in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and is an overall software expert. Also a co-founder of Stakes is Ferdinand Zamella. He has expertise in management consulting, strategic partnerships, as well as mergers and acquisitions. Lastly, myself as a financial expert, I have experience at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and I also created an online marketplace for small businesses to sell and contact local producers in their area. This is our team, and we look forward to pushing energy trading into the future and revolutionizing the world of energy trading. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Wow, also big clap for the team. Well done. Great. Really much well in time, I have to say. So good. So I'm very happy that we have Marina and Renate back with us again. So yeah, we'll do the quick transition. Yes, perfect. Hello back again. So let's start with Renate to give feedback and maybe answer some questions.
Brian, thank you very much for coming up with that idea and for the great presentation. And you also assembled a great team. So well done. I have basically two questions. The first question is, there are other energy trading platforms out there that aggregate renewable resources energy. So is the only distinction trading PPAs, or is the distinction blockchain, or what is really the USB in that? Because as a small energy consumer, like an SME, I have other possibilities to achieve the same goal?
Yeah, great question. To answer your question, I would say, yeah, it's such a broad space that looking for a USP has been something we've really been working on. We know that PPA marketplaces exist in North America and Australia. So being a widespread, widely adopted PPA marketplace in a place like Germany, where renewable energy is so huge and focused on, would be one goal. But we're looking to expand into other potential energy markets like emission credit trading, and carbon cap and trade market would be another add-on for an energy auction, as well as experimenting with the blockchain and different tokens to make the transactions easier would be two other USPs. But that's a great question. Right now, there's a lot of innovation in the space, and so it's been tough to narrow that down.
But of course, this doesn't mean, because there is a lot of innovation going on, that there is not a huge market space for many of the companies or many startups in that space. So yeah, you're right. The second question I have is, what would be the most critical hypothesis to be validated and to be true that your solution will be a success in the end?
Yeah, great question. I would say we would love to ensure that PPA contracts, because they're such huge documents and because they do take such long time in months, sometimes 1 to 2 years in legal negotiations, if that really could be reduced for an online digital platform, that it's something that is complicated. We have to talk to a lot of experts on, and so that would be our main goal there.
Mm. Well, actually, we have a lot of PPA expertise in-house because we are doing it for a couple of years now. But so let's see how your solution evolves, and looking forward to exchange experience in that. Thank you, Ryan.
Super, thank you, Renate. And I think you have the experts here, so to say, straight with you. Like as Renate mentioned, they have PPAs in-house. So I think it's a good field to test and see how your solution could work. So amazing. Thank you very much, Renate. And then, of course, over to Marina.
Yes, thank you very much, Ryan. Great presentation. And I'm also curious on how you're going to develop this idea further in the PPA contracts. I think with Renate, you'll have and Tobias a great partners aside, especially because you're kind of challenging what they already have. So this is really exciting. And what I was wondering is the 0.1% of transaction fee. How did you calculate them, or is it a target that you're working towards to make it attractive?
Oh, yeah, good question, Maria. Yeah, it is a little bit of a rough sketch, but we've looked at the transaction costs of other PPA marketplaces and compared that. We've looked at some revenues of individual renewable energy producers and some things. So 0.1% transaction fee is a rough sketch right now, a rough figure, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Interesting to see where the final percentage will end, because between 0.1 to 8, currently you have a lot of space still to make it to still be attractive, whatever the percentage is below, right? Thank you very much.
Good. All right. A few more challenges to tackle, but I think absolutely feasible. So thank you very much, Ryan, and also to the rest of the team of TradeSoul. Thank you. Okay, and thank you to you. All right, so lastly, okay. So lastly, and that's why I think we now require all of your energy. Please, full attention. It's always the most tricky to be the first team, but also at the same time be the last team. So I would really like you to totally focus now on our last team, which is also like quite fascinating. And I think every one of us can relate to this quite easily. So I'm super happy to hand over to Marlo from Team Power Roots.
Thank you, Vanessa. Hi, welcome everybody also from my side, and thank you for joining this kickoff event. As Vanessa introduced, I'm Marlo and I'm presenting for Team Power Roots. However, we decided to name our brand Clans Back to the Roots. And to give you an idea about our overall vision we have in our minds, I want you to answer the following question to yourself. Would you rather live in a city that looks like this, or would you prefer to live in Singapore? This, of course, is kind of a rhetorical question, at least I hope so, but it underlines the need that we have to and hopefully are going to change the visual nature of our cities. Fact is, we all love plants. For example, in our homes, in our cities, in parks, and also in our offices. And yeah, this, by the way, is our office. We can't wait to get some plants in there. But when we look around, we don't see plants everywhere. So what's the problem? Well, besides that we all love plants, they not seem to be that valuable. It's not like money grows on them. And also, in most cases, there's still the incentive to give them some space. Further, the implementation and maintenance is often not cost effective. So to sum it up, today plants are treated as costs and not as an asset. But now the good news, we want to change that by investigating in ways to make green space more valuable. For example, we are working on a plant microbial fuel cell. This fuel cell is able to harvest electricity from living plants. And in small scales, this will enable you to charge your phone, to charge other electric devices, or power an LED. And during this 3-month program, we are working on a physical prototype of this PMFC and hopefully going to introduce it to you at the final pitch. Another use case are buildings. We could harvest the electricity from plants on the rooftop or walls of the building, but also set in a wastewater recycling system, because also out of the wastewater we can generate electricity. And by doing that, we can make buildings more sustainable, saving resources, and also be more cost effective. Also in the open field, we have some applications. For example, in wet fields like rice cultures, they are offering suitable conditions to implement this technology. And this could enable farmers on the countryside to develop self-powered off-grid solutions and be more independent. Within our solution, there come along multiple advantages. For example, we are able to harvest the electricity from the plants by entering the natural photosynthesis process. Microbial organisms in the soil are working day and night to decompose glucose in the soil, and by this process electrons are released, which we can capture. And however, the power output is approximately limited to 3.2 watt per meter square. Bioluminescence is an astonishing ability, normally reserved for fireflies and some marine plants, but recently scientists found out that by transferring a gene to a normal plant, they can develop the same enzymes that let fireflies glow. You want to be carbon neutral? For example, a tree is able to store more than 20 kilograms carbon per year, and also grasses can absorb up to 1 kilogram per meter square carbon every year. And this in addition to the carbon which is fixed in the biomass. As you all may know, the EU decided to be carbon net zero by 2050. And therefore, further regulations will become more concrete, and we want to help you to stick to these regulations by implementing carbon negative technologies. And by implementing these smart technologies, the value of real estate assets and of properties will increase. And recently also some local authorities and cities decided to prescribe that new built homes have to have a green roof. We also want to have an impact on biodiversity. And to give you an idea about that, in a single tree, there are living several hundred species of insects. Water treatment is also an issue we could address, and plants can help here in 2 ways. First of all, as mentioned earlier, we can recycle wastewater and generate electricity out of it, round about approximately 1 kilowatt hour per cubic meter wastewater. And secondly, plants and green spaces can serve as a water storage system. Especially in urban areas where most of the surfaces are sealed, this is a big point, and natural open soil is able to store water up to 40% of its own volume. Air quality will improve, and in cities, studies showed that increasing green space by only 10%, deaths from heart disease decreased by 13 deaths per 100,000 adults. Of course, it's hard to express that in numbers, but I think you will agree when I say that giving plants more space will improve the quality of life overall, and by improving the quality of life, also the health of the people living there will improve. Last point I want to mention is the natural cooling effect plants can have on buildings, but also on cities. And by greening up, cities could decrease the air temperature by 1 to 5 degrees. By absorbing carbon out of the air and by evaporating water, plants can cool down the air temperature. So to give plants more space can face a lot of issues regarding climate change, but also regarding modern cities. But this is nothing new. But by implementing this in smart biological systems and harvesting electricity out of it, we can give plants, beside their ecological and also social importance, and economic sense. And now let me introduce you to the team behind this approach. We have Rohan Patil, our tech and science, plant and tech science expert, Adrian Colomb, our business and strategy planner, Nircha Basak, our energy systems expert, and myself, Marlo Körner, the product manager of the team. And now, the last trigger from our side, how would you like your Christmas tree to power itself? And yeah, thanks for the attention. Feel free to reach out if you, we are looking forward to get in touch with you. And now, attention to get some feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Power Roots team. I think every one of us has in mind now, okay, wow, Christmas is coming up, and maybe with some plants we can light up our candles, which I think is a nice idea. So I will keep that in mind. Fantastic. Good stuff. So last feedback round with our feedback givers. So we have Toby and Marina. We'll do a quick transition. Good to have you back in. Let's say man first, so over to Tobias.
Thank you. Hi, Marlo.
Hi.
How do you feel after the presentation? Yeah?
Feeling fine, yeah.
Very good. So I'm really impressed. You're quite a diverse team. I think you have everything. I can. Yeah? Is it still here, the echo? Yeah? So. I tried this way. Is it better now? Marlo, yeah. So technical things to be solved yet. So, yeah, Marlo, I don't know how to get it. But very good. Power and plants, back to the roots. I'm very impressed. So I have a beautiful picture in mind, having a green landscape, green cities, and getting more out of it than just having a beautiful picture, but also energy. So that's as far as I understood, you don't have the one technology in mind to discover in the next couple of weeks, but more than that. You're looking in a range of technologies who are out there, and you would like to explore which technology could be feasible and viable. So I'm very interested in that, and I think you should then dig deeper into the technology feasibility and the TRL, technology readiness level, but also regarding the IP and the patent rights. What are you able to use for your startup? So this is one thing, the IP rights, the patents. The other thing is you listen to our Holger Kreetz keynote, and we are trying to set up a renewable portfolio of 1 gigawatt within the next 3 years. So getting plants and energy and power from the plants, it would be rather marginal than a big contributor to achieve that goal. So I got your figures. So you would need some kind of 3 soccer fields for the power consumption for 1 household. So, but however, this technology is more than carbon neutral. So I like the idea of having something carbon negative. So you have 2 things, the power output and the carbon negativity, which also has some kind of a value. I really like that. And you mentioned some kind of applications from our perspective as Uniper. we are not so much into charging iPhones. So we are more interested in the large scale. So what could contribute to it in the medium to large scale, at least when you scale it up in the later stage. So yeah, but again, I really love this topic. I think it could be a crucial element to make our urban areas smarter and greener. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your feedback. And regarding the first part of the feedback, it's like we can use the microbial organisms which work in the soil, and then we have to somehow give them fuel sources. We can power them by the glucose which is emitted from the plants, but we can also use wastewater. And now we are looking into what kind of fuel sources we can combine, and therefore maybe also extend the power output. And as you mentioned, we are now working in small scales to get deeper into the technology. But yeah, of course, we are also looking in some larger scale use cases.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. Marina.
Yes, thank you very much, Marlo. This is a great idea, exciting area you're tapping in. I have two ideas I want to share with you because, as you maybe heard before, Matthias in the panel said we support making buildings green, smart, and healthy. So they're green and healthy and also smart. If you use the technology, we definitely agree on that. So I think it's important that when you work on a concept to settle on a specific format of the housing industry, like for what kind of houses is the solution being made, or is in the first term, and then later you can develop further formats, because you have very old houses in Germany, nobody wants to touch them, they are like even protected by law. But you have the new districts where everything is basically possible. So that seems like right now. And then you will have to compete with the solar panels on the roof when you talk about the roof. So you want to be on the roof, and the solar panels also want to be on the roof. So maybe to also focus on, to elaborate the USPs, and I see a lot actually, not about only energy, but also the carbon footprint, the diversity. We have the issues with the insects in the cities that they don't have enough green fields. So you have a lot of arguments that are for working towards you and for you. So you have a lot of USPs actually that you can roll out and play. But I think it's important to do that in the beginning, quite in the beginning, because talking about roofs and electricity, it's already almost settled in the society that there should be solar panels because they're very efficient. But there are other chances, as we see, and with much more effects, or maybe a combination makes sense, right? So that is something I would bear in mind, because I would love to see the idea develop further.
Thank you. Yes, I totally agree that in terms of power and energy density, we can't compete with solar. But therefore, we have to find use cases where solar is not suitable. And also in cities, I think they will green up, and we can find use cases where there will emerge green space and implement this technology. And regarding houses, the size of the building has to be large enough so that, for example, the water recycling system makes sense, and to implement a system. But yeah, we have to do more research on that and think about the scales we want to address. Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe also walk through the city and try to not focus maybe only on the housing industry. What crosses my mind right now is like the parking garages that you have in big cities. It's like a beton block, how you say, in the gray, annoying, nobody takes care of them, and usually there wouldn't be a solar panel on top. But it would be so nice if they would be green, and if they even generate some electricity, that would be amazing. So maybe the white spots per city could be a big chance here.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Super. Thank you very much.
You.
That was good insights. Thank you, team. Well done. Yeah, we'll see you in a second then for lunch. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, we'll do a quick transition. Okay, so first of all, big thank you to Tobias, Marina, and Renate for spending the time and giving feedback. That was really much appreciated, and we follow on tomorrow in our deep dive and feedback session. So I think there's more to come, and this is also where the beauty of our program lies. As we said, we bring together corporates and talents to innovate together. But then I would also say, and I really mean this, not only a big thank you, but I'm super impressed about the teams. I mean, they met here like 1.5 weeks ago. As you know, not all of them knew them. I mean, they knew each other before, but they haven't seen maybe in person before, all of them. They need to get together. They need to align as a team. They talk about roles, responsibilities, who's good at what. And in a very short time, they need to work on their idea and potential solution. They need to prepare slides. They need to pitch the slides and all that. So I'm very proud. Of course, I can compare a little bit to the other missions we had. So I think this is well delivered in terms of the slides, the content, the presentation, everything. So I think a big applause also to all of the teams and the team members in doing this so well. So I'm very proud, I have to say. And you can be proud of yourself as well. And there's more to come. So this was just the start. So thank you also very much for everyone joining so far. I'll just have one slide left in terms of what's ahead, so that everyone knows what's happening next. You see the timeline again. So we finalized now our kickoff. As mentioned, we have our feedback sessions tomorrow. And then the next weeks until the next touch point, which will be the interim pitch, the teams will spend lots of time in terms of setting up their user research. I mean, as you mentioned, looking into the market, what kind of competitors are out there, what else do I need to know, how can I, maybe talk to potential users. Maybe also we have the opportunity to visit any of the sites or companies to better understand maybe the framework and the settings, so there's more to come. And then the interim pitch will be a very good touch point also where you will see the results of the research already. Then there's as we work in an agile way, lots of loops and rounds and improvements. People will focus then on the business model, on prototyping, so that by end of August we have something to show. And so I am quite excited. I hope you are excited too. Again, a big thank you to everyone for joining, and I wish you a great lunch break and remaining week. And most of you I will see tomorrow in our feedback session. So thank you. Bye.